That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the baddest, the maddest, the man with a plan who's ready to take control. You are looking at Evan Fury, and we are drinking and mosey.
All right, everybody. Want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin at Moe's be a brand ambassador. They encourage everybody to break out of that comfort zone, live their best self, which, hey, that's what got me starting the podcast. But they got great clothing, great apparel, t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, hats, all that good stuff. Be sure, link will be in the description, and use the code Drinkin at Moe's to get 10% off your order. Let's fucking go.
World.
Yeah, no, I get you there. Technical stuff, even running this podcast is a bit of a learning process. But anyways,
hey, and it's my first podcast, so we're all learning today.
Oh yeah, it's a learning process. But we are here. We are drinking the Moe's. Big Mo here. Be sure YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good shit, because that YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass. We're most places you can find your podcast, but today I have with me Evan Fury. How you doing?
You know what? If I was doing any better, it would be illegal. It really is, man. Things have been so good for me here lately. Kind of getting out of the injury, been rehabbing, been trying to get healthier, get stronger, get faster and stuff like that. Because the time I've spent away from the ring is driving me insane. So, like, we're coming up on a year now that I haven't done anything, and I freaking hate it. So,
oh boy, yeah, no, I can only imagine. You know, you get out there as often as a lot of independent wrestlers, or even just pro wrestlers in general. The amount y'all get out there, and then, you know, you get injured and it takes you away for a year, sometimes more, and then just that itch to get back, I can only imagine. But you know, you brought up, you know, trying to get healthier and stuff. Before we get into my first thing that I like to start off with everybody with, you know,
okay.
we'll start off with that.
Okay.
Just so I keep my train of thought right. What got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to make the leap into the business? Because everybody's got their own origin story there.
And mine is definitely unique. Yeah, well, we're drinking a Mo, so I go ahead and get my beverage for me. So cheers to you, sir. I was a fan as early as I can remember. My parents told me stories about, you know, doing the Frankensteiner to my cousin in the living room, you know, as a wee little lad. Like, they, you know, 2-3 months old, you know, sitting in like the little bouncer or whatever they put on a wrestling pay-per-view, and I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I was just fixated. So, and that feeling never went away. And when I got into professional wrestling, I got into it because of my dad and my family. So in North Carolina, in the independent wrestling scene around here, there were a handful of schools that you could go to, you know, and they were either within 100 miles or 20 minutes up the road. It just depended on which way you wanted to go. So, like, you're more reputable people, you're going to be traveling a little bit more. So around 93, 94, my cousin and my dad got into it. And I was just like, oh, what? A wrestler? This is amazing. And, you know, didn't grasp the concept of like independence at that point. I was like, dude, a wrestling ring, and my dad is in there. This is awesome. And I would sit there in awe. I'm like, that's my dad. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sucks, but still, it's my dad. It was like, every kid try to, or most kids try to think of their parents as like Superman or a superhero or something like that.
Yeah.
Dad was that to me, so I'm just like, oh, this is it.
Nope. Yeah.
And he was like the consummate good guy, paid his taxes, never took anything that wasn't his. Like he was like white meat baby face, clean cut through and through. So no personality, just all smiles and come on, let's go. That was his thing for like the first year or two of his career.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, this really isn't working for me. I'm trying something else. And we are of Hispanic and Italian ethnicity. So he's like, all right, I'm going to kind of lean into this, So he got a luchador mask. And instead of doing like the traditional lucha libre stuff, he went more for La Parca and was more a gimmick. So very much chairman of the board type stuff. Before he blew up in WCW, we had actually saw him in some AAA stuff because we had just got satellite TV and like we were catching like ECW, AAA, and some New Japan stuff, and I'm just like, what is this? Just blew my mind. And so he did a comedy gimmick, and he got a mask for me because he was just like, I got an idea to try to incorporate, Evan. Fast forward a little bit, we are going to a show that there was one venue that we always worked. It was a National Guard armory. It was just an armory show, but it was the crowd that place. Like it was still real to them. It's still real to them in 2023. Like I've seen riot place. It's ridiculous. And I'm just going there and I'm just going to, watch the show or whatever. And my dad like signals for me. He's like, hey, go to the car. There's a bag in there. Grab it. Meet me in the locker room. What? I am 8 years old. I put on the mask. I put on the singlet. I had amateur wrestling, ASIC wrestling shoes. And I was now let's see if I can do this politically correct, a Hispanic little person manager. In a mask at 8 years old. And he just looks at me before we go out. He was just like, just have fun. I'm like, that's all you got? Like that's the only tip and trick you got. Okay, let's go. I'm 8, Pops. He's like, yeah, I know, so am I. Let's go. Because he had that mentality. And, we were guys, so I got booed. And it was weird for like the first 10 seconds. And then I was like, wait a minute, you've been watching wrestling your whole life. You know exactly what to do. And then just off to the races.
Oh man, yeah.
They get mad, like shake your fist, or like, you son of a, it was very much Southern wrestling. So if you did the shut up stupid thing, you got the reaction back then. So it was hilarious.
Oh man, I can only imagine. I know I would just be having a field day with that if I ever got that chance.
The funniest part about that first time, so my dad's mask and my mask both matched. So, and the referee that we had, who one of the best people I've ever worked with in this business, he did territories back in the 70s and 80s. So like traveled, well versed, got to pick minds of greats. And his name is Dave Ruth. So my dad's got his opponent down. It's got like a rear chin lock or something like that. And he's like, hey, slide out, get your son in here, and then tell him to put his face right here. So doing like the twin magic thing that like the Bellas used to do, stuff like that. And I'm like, what the hell? So my dad slides out, rear chin lock. Cool, I'm in. My dad gets down on his knees and is like banging on the ring apron, trying to pretend to be me while I'm pretending to be him in the ring. It was the stupidest I've ever done. Hey.
Oh man, Oh man, that just the smile on my face because I can just imagine how much fun that was because I know how much fun I would be having with it.
Exactly how much you think it is exactly how much me and my dad had with that. Like, it was a blast. We get to the back and he just looks at me like he's all grin. And it was wild because I never remember seeing my dad smile that much. You know, he was just like, "Hey, so what you think?" I'm like, "Well, Dad, I think I'm in the business." And he just laughed. He was like, but I would go to wrestling training with him. Him and my mom signed off on a release for me to start getting trained at that point.
Yeah.
We were very much a family unit with the wrestling school, and my trainer, again, old territory, traveled the roads, knew a lot of people. His name was Ken Spence. Because it's a wild thing about territories. There are thousands of people that were amazing, and 99% of the people, or 98% of the people that are wrestling fans, don't know who the hell they are. Don't know. Yeah, who's Ivan Putski? I'm like, shut up, man. Come on, read a book. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, even nowadays with a lot of the independents in some of the smaller areas, it's like unless you're one of the lucky ones to break out, you still get that sort of a
yeah.
thing. Like here in Omaha, we're we're growing,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had some people, branch out. Unfortunately, one of them passed away like towards the end of last year, and he, I mean, he had been, to not contracted by him, but he'd done stuff for WWE. He'd actually, I was trying to remember. I think this was only maybe a year or so ago. He was on AEW going up against Powerhouse Hobbs, and
Oh, wow.
but yeah, we got those guys that they're getting out there, but then you know you also have those people that they're great, they got amazing talent, but outside of that real home area is you would show somebody outside of that area a match and be like, who's that?
Yeah. People are very in tune to liking what they like, they want to follow.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you know, not everybody likes chocolate. Not everybody likes vanilla. Some people like fudge ripple, or some people like
Yeah.
frozen. So
No, and that's the beautiful thing with pro wrestling in general, and especially now with independent wrestling. There's so many flavors out there. There's so many options. You get IWTV that's got all these different options. You got pro wrestling TV that's got a whole bunch of options. You got fight TV that's got a whole bunch of options. It just
like, I remember,
crazy.
people were like, "Hey man, we're on Twitch,"
Mm.
and that was doing really well for a long time, and then it kind of went back and forth a little bit. But with Twitch, it's just like, all right, cool. We are a very, very small independent company. This is what we're gonna do. So we got like maybe $4 of a budget, but we're gonna put on a wrestling show. And they wrestled their asses off. Like, I seen some amazing stuff. I saw some less than amazing stuff, but you know,
No,
big budget.
no, I can definitely agree. I know the promotion that I actually got started watching independent wrestling on when I was stationed in San Diego was, they didn't have the crazy budget, but holy crap. I mean, I was in Southern California, so I mean, there's all Southern California is one of the meccas of independent wrestling still to this day. But I remember, I believe I actually might have this match on DVD somewhere in my collection downstairs. But my favorite match ever that I got to personally witness Scorpio Sky versus TJ Perkins versus B-Boy.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a hell of a show.
And the crowd, it was probably a mid-sized crowd for them, but you see some of the crowds some independent promotions have. And you compare that crowd to those, and probably on the smaller side, but still, man, just the crowd and the reaction that I was getting from watching those guys. Whew.
I have done crowds, or I've done shows where the crowd was 6 people.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And the promoter got mad because instead of someone going to his concession stand, they went to a soda machine. So like he was selling canned sodas for like $1, and the soda machine was selling them for 50 cents. They're just like, no, I'm just gonna go over here. So like in the middle of the match, he grabbed the microphone and started cutting a promo on the crowd for not buying his stuff or whatever. I was just like, yeah, I'm not getting paid for this one, am I, Chief? All right, cool. It's one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I still want a little bit of a funny memory for me down in California. I got to be at this show that they were selling these posters that were signed by everybody. And I just recently found my one. But little did I know that they were also selling raffle tickets, and that was going to be one of the prizes. I didn't think I was going to win, so I went and I bought one. And then wouldn't you know,
Guess who won the pony?
I end up winning one of the raffle ones, and the ring announcer guy that was doing the raffle was like, "Oh, really?" But then I ended up finding a little kid that was leaving the show, and I'm like, "Hey, I only need one of these."
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a fun time. But one thing that I was going back to you here, one thing that I was noticing is the AML, the promotion wrestling school that you're with there, and also some of the people that I've actually had on that have come through there, namely. Oh no, go ahead. Yes. So, like we were talking, one of the people, couple of the people that I've had on, because I've had them both on, JAC and his now wife. I've actually had them both on, and great guests. Loved having them on.
Oh, they're horrible. Nah.
They play the heel role well.
Yeah. So when I first came into AML training, the head trainer there, or the head coach there, Harry, I had known for decades. When I got trained when I was a kid by Ken Spence, he had also come in a little bit later on, and he just turned into a sponge, and just like anywhere he could learn, anything he could do, he was doing it. And lost contact with him a little bit, and then I got back around to it. I'm like, oh, hey, he's doing the AML. So I hit him up, and like trying to get a hold of him through message. He's like, I get a lot of fake messages, so trying to go through everything. He's like, I'm sorry I missed yours. So I just went up to the school, and I was like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And one of the first people I saw that stood out to me was JAC. Kid's tall, kid's big, kid has a presence. Well, hang on. I call everybody kid, and I hate doing that. He's got a presence, and when I saw him, he extended his hand. He's like, "Hi, nice to meet you." I'm like, "Hey, I'm Evan. Pleasure to meet you." He's very respectful, and again, a sponge. He's just like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool," because Josh Gary had like kind of like, "Hey, he's been around, he knows his stuff, yada yada yada." So they're like, "Cool, that's someone I can pick their brain on." And at first, when I met him, I was just like, "You are a tall bastard," but also at the same time, nice guy, very eager, very very determined. So, and that was the thing that I loved when I walked into that training company or that training session. Everybody there was hungry. Everybody was just dying to learn. They're like, "I'm not getting my steps right. How can I get better?" And just seeing the improvements that they were making, and like I said, it stood out immediately.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And I remember talking to him and some of the stuff that we talked about, and then having his now wife on, and some of the success that she's having has been amazing.
Yeah, talk about a hell of a like rookie season for them, man. Like first year in, or yeah, year and a half, 2 years, something like that. I think they're in. But, yeah,
no, totally. And then you mentioned you had some injuries, and then caused you to have to step away for a little bit, and now you're getting back in there, you're getting healthy. And I'm seeing a lot of the stuff on Facebook was where I actually caught on to this, and I'm glad you brought it up. You're getting leaner, you're getting in there. How's that journey been going for you?
It is one of the most rewarding, but also one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. When you take control of your decisions and stuff like that. So like the fact that, I know it's Drinking at Moe's, so it's for the podcast, it's for entertainment purpose. And this is the first beer I've had, and I couldn't tell you how long. So, so like I'm probably one and done at this point. But one of my I have a really good friend that I've known of and kind of circled around with a couple times, who was a part of that first training class that I went to at AML, is a certified personal trainer right now. And he was just like, "Hey, I'm trying to work through this." I was like, "Whenever you have time, this is what I'm trying to do. If you can hook me up with a little workout regimen." He was just like, "Yeah, man, sounds good. Just give me a little bit of time. Let me figure out what I got." And then wrote me out a workout plan. This was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. No, it was less than that. Time is irrelevant to me. You get in your 30s, everything is just like, "Yeah, it was yesterday." No, man, that was last month. Damn it.
Oh hell, I'm about to turn 40 in July.
I'll be 35 in July. So, but he sent out a workout regimen. He's like, "Start out with this, see what you like, see what you don't like." It was 4 exercises, utilizing everything like that. He's like, "Give it a try, and then let me know what you got." Because the hardest part with the injury that I had, because it was spinal, and nerves, which is always fun. Yeah. Especially with the misdiagnosis. That's what really kind of like pushed everything back. So, and now it's just like waiting for clearance, and it's kind of to the point where I'm like, if I don't ask for permission, you can't tell me no. So, which is a terrible mentality to have, but don't ask for it, just take it. It builds character. So I started doing this workout regimen, and then I incorporated one other thing into it. Because if you do one quick search on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, hell, MySpace, my yearbook, whatever it is, and put in fitness programs or fitness trends, a list a mile long.
Big, yeah.
So I found one, and it's called 75 Hard. There's a reason why it's called hard. That thing whipped.
You
Like,
know what? I believe I have a friend down in Florida that is, I forget how long into it they're in right now, but that name, yeah, that's actually what they're doing right now.
yeah, um, that definitely challenges not only the body, the mind, but also the spirit and your willingness to push through. The success rate is very slim. A lot of professional athletes and a lot of like decathlon runners, marathon runners, and stuff like that. The freaks who run for fun, as I like to say, uh, they do that kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, well, if this gets me on the right track, along with the workout regimen that I got with him, let me try it out. And I did. Um, and so between being a dad, full time job, trying to do all this and improve myself, and at some point or another, sleep. Yeah, it got to the point one day, sleep one, and I was just like, all right, let's start over. But so now instead of that, I'm utilizing the tools from it, but not necessarily doing the challenge. So I'm doing 2 exercises a day, one inside, one outside. The outside is usually my favorite part because I'm getting fresh air, I'm getting sunshine, which, sometimes, you know, not to get too heavy, but with mental health and the struggle that it is right now, you know, sometimes vitamin D and some fresh air does a mind and a body good.
No, I can definitely relate. This last year has definitely not been an easy one. I mean, I don't need to go in all this stuff, but let's just say, you know, my I will say my wife and I were, you brought up, being a dad. My wife and I were pregnant. We're getting twin girls. Was excited as hell. I mean, initially I was like, oh man, I was hoping for at least one boy, but then I'm like, the more it started settling in, it's like, hey, cool, I'm gonna be a girl dad. This will be all right. And then, well, they weren't due to like November, but they decided to show up in like late July, and they only made it about a week.
Fuck.
And they're the reason I can kind of
Yeah.
see it. It's, their names, the date they were born, and then those are actually a hand and a footprint from each of them. And yeah, it like even now it's like I can talk about it, but it's still one of those things that's like, especially with Mother's Day and Father's Day coming up here soon, it being the first one after, it's like,
Yeah, the year first. It sucks a fat dog's ass. So
yeah. But
I
getting
empathize with
outside and all that, you know, my dogs, getting them out for walks, getting them. There's this dog friendly bar that they got like all sorts of stuff outside for them to run around on. Getting out to stuff like that and stuff. It's been helping.
yeah. I mean, I can empathize. That's the best. That shit's not easy.
Yeah.
So I will say this: I am glad you were still here.
Yeah, there were definitely those days that it was like, I never, I won't really say that I like had a plan or like, I seriously thought about doing anything stupid, but
Yeah.
even with that, you know, I'll admit there are definitely those days where it's like, what, it would be so easy to just, but then I'm like, you know what, the thing, and going back to the girls, and well, even my wife, she's been a freaking saint through all of it. But the way I always look about it, looking back to our girls, is I always tell myself that they might not be with me anymore, but my little girls wouldn't want daddy to be a quitter, and just gets me plugging through everything.
That is a damn good way to be. So, as a dad, I will definitely, hats off to you on that one.
Yeah, no, definitely not a club I was really looking forward to joining for people that have lost that.
Yeah, it's not a good one to be a part of.
No, definitely. But anyways, going back to a little bit brighter of a subject, like before that, I'm always open and honest about all of it. So it's that one's no biggie. But like I said, going back into the brighter side of stuff, you're getting back in there, you're getting ready to, obviously have to wait for, medical clearances and stuff. But, one thing that we kind of talked about a little bit before, leading up to today, you mentioned that you had watched a couple episodes, one in particular with Will Bannon, and, getting in there saying, he's been trying to get you in there with the death matches. And good Lord, I've developed a little bit of a following in the death matches. I've had, obviously Will, I've had, death match legends from Madman Pondo to Alex Colon. And what would you like? Are you like seriously looking into actually doing it? Because I'm a fan of deathmatch wrestling, when it's done like, the promotions out there like ICW, No Holds Barred, or, GCW and the stuff that they're doing, because it's not just like death matches that have had that stigma of just being the backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
They have the base in pro wrestling. They just have the deathmatch elements with it.
Yeah. So when I came into AML, Will Bannon was there, and he was pushing, it's like deathmatch, deathmatch, deathmatch. He's like, I want to do this. This is my passion. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool, man. Like, if someone is passionate about something within reason, and I will be a cheerleader. I will support them to the nth degree. And then some of my past matches came in, and they're like, oh, Evan was hardcore. Okay, yeah, I can definitely talk him into doing deathmatch. I was like, that's a little bit of a fucking stretch. That's like going from, Bud Light to like Everclear. That's a bit of a jump, man. Like,
yeah, definitely a bit of a jump there.
Yeah, he was just like, hey, man, just like whenever you're ready, I would gladly throw light tubes over your forehead. And I'm like, you have to be a special kind of crazy to be like, hey, that's very kind and thoughtful of you. Or what the fuck?
Nope, I totally understand. And, at first, yeah, you definitely have those reactions. And then, I remember getting to see what I consider like my first air quotes legit death match, and not one of those, like you said, the hardcore, like just, the anything goes, like Falls Count Anywhere stuff.
Yeah.
But, this one was actually late last year, and actually is one of my questions for one of my categories coming up. A crazy in match moment was actually from that match. It was Jake Chris versus Joel Bateman in a death match where they had just gotten done that show with a multi-person monsters ball match. So there was thumbtacks, all sorts of shit all over the ring. They're getting ready to clean it up, but Jake comes running in and says, fuck that, leave it, let's go. And then match goes, ends up ending by them taking 4 folding chairs, bridging 2 panes of glass, and then they're fighting on the turnbuckle. And
And then,
one gets the upper hand, but here's where it gets crazy. Jake's manager rolls in, and I see him pull out from his pocket this thing of lighter fluid, and they light the glass on fire. Yep.
I'm gonna have to look up this clip because I'm curious to see how it ends.
Tales from the Ring was the name of the show for Sami Callihan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver. I believe if you have Fight Plus, that show should be on there. All you got to do, look up Wrestling Revolver.
Okay, well, I know what my homework assignment tonight's going to be.
Oh man, that whole match was crazy. I mean, hell, like I said, just the match before that, they had a Monsters Ball match that I'm trying to remember all the participants, but I know it had Warhorse and PCO, and I'm having a brain fart on some of the other guys, but I do remember those 2 in particular.
I got you.
But yeah, no, deathmatch is definitely a whole nother animal when it comes to professional wrestling.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that it's very polarizing in the wrestling industry. There's people that are just like, no, it's art, it's this, it's that, and other people, it's garbage wrestling, and I'm like, man, I've done hardcore shit. Like I did it when I was in my 20s, and it was very much of the I like the reaction that I got, but if you talk to certain people, it's like, okay, so you just got like your easy reaction. You broke out a chair, they're going to react to that. You break out a kendo stick, they're going to react to that. You fight outside, you don't put any psychology into it, they're going to react to that. So you're working for your pop, you're not working the crowd and like getting them emotionally invested. They're just like, ooh and ah and ooh and ah. So
no.
And there are people in death matches like, I want them to ooh and ah, but I want them to care about why they're oohing and ahhing, or oh, and you fucked up, is it all the other changes go into?
No, so. Definitely, and there are those that they definitely do care. They definitely do try to have that good base of being traditionally trained, but then just have those sprinklings of the deathmatch elements in there. And it's not just one of those that's like, oh, they both have light tubes.
Yeah. So I've seen both sides of the argument. Both sides of the argument. It's definitely,
no, definitely. I've had the same. I've had the same thing where I've seen, I've seen matches from Alex Colon, who I actually have signed ring worn gear of his downstairs. I've gotten to talk to guys like Man Pondo, and then I've seen some matches where it's like, oh God, what am I watching?
Yeah, I've definitely seen the ones where it was like they were set up a wrestling ring and like a trailer park, and I'm just like, what the? Oh, okay. Wow, he's dressed as a Power Ranger. Okay, that's a new one. Just
yeah. No, I've definitely been there. Looking back, on your career so far, what would you say is like, if you could pick a favorite moment or two, what would you say you would put in there? Because, and I realized that it can be kind of hard to just nail down like a couple things because, especially those people that are out there constantly, there's people that's like literally every weekend of every month they're out there. So to nail down 1 or 2 moments can be a little tricky.
Honestly, anytime that I get through a match and I don't get hurt, that's definitely highlight. I've been fortunate enough to have opportunities. I've also been fortunate enough to almost have opportunities. Um, should I go into that one? Because that's still one of my favorite stories. Uh, the booking that almost was. Because
If
like,
you want to, you can.
yeah, I'll go into it because I think it's hilarious. So I told you how I got my start as, the little person, but the midget. I was a Mexican. I'm not, it sucks
Yeah.
running, and it was my gimmick, so I can talk about it. So it was after one of the TLCs, and they were coming to Greensboro for a Raw. They put out fillers throughout the North Carolina Independence, and it was like, I'm looking for a midget. We need him for a segment. And I don't know if you remember or not, but that night on Raw, you had Edge and Christian, and they had like a mini version of Matt and Jeff and a mini version of Bubba and Diva on like
Yeah.
mini. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were looking for someone to do that spot. So the guy that trained me, he was just like, Evan, I don't know how to tell you this, but like there's shit. WWF at the time, WWE now, they're looking for a midget gimmick. And I'm like, where? They're like, Greensboro. I'm like, thank you. Grab my bag. I was like, let's go. And we haul ass to Greensboro, North Carolina, heading down the highway. And I'm just like, holy shit. I actually have like so many things are running through my mind. Like I am an underage kid and I am going to try to like carny gimmick work my way into the back and end up on national television. Oh shit, here we go. This is like, this is it. I am 10 years old. This is the zenith. I'm going to be on national television. We get there and I'm like, hi, they were looking for this, and this. They're like, all right, cool. Go around the back. Someone's going to meet you around the back. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm right here. I'm in the back of the Coliseum and I'm seeing a couple of the guys like coming in and out. I see Matt and Jeff, and a couple of other like talents from the company. And I'm just like, I'm about to, oh shit. Okay. This is real. Compose myself. At 10 years old, I'm trying to like make my voice sound deeper. Hi, I'm Evan. Nice to meet you. There's like, how old are you? I'm like, he's never going to believe I'm 18. I'm 16 and a half. You're too young. We can't let you in. Shit.
Mm.
And everybody's like, why don't you just say you're 18? And I was like, wouldn't believe I was 18. I had no facial hair and I looked like a child because I was a child. But that was always hilarious because this was very much in the time of, WCW was still running, ECW was still running, and everybody was trying to get like extra work and trying to like do tryouts and stuff like that. And I'm just like, hey man, my foot was in the back door of WWF. What's up? But hey, get to do ring crew for ECW. That's cool. Yeah.
No, that's definitely a cool story. Definitely some that I would definitely look back on like, oh, so close.
Like that's close. Like if I actually would have been able to do it, oh shit, I would have packed in my gear. I'm like, all right, I've made it, guys. We're good. I can die. Game over. Stuff for everybody.
Nope, I can definitely understand that for sure. Well, I have two categories that I kind of round things off with. One's a little bit of a name game. We'll start off with that, where I try to theme it towards the guests, and with being from the Carolinas, I figure why not? We'll do a Carolinas edition where I name off some people that have made their name or at least got their start in the Carolinas, and you give me your thoughts on them. And there's some big ones here.
Okay, word association. Here we go.
First one, he's there with AML right now. He's been a former guest of mine, Beer City Bruiser.
Beer City is. I have no bad things to say about Beer City.
Oh, same here.
Like at some point, I am going to be able to sit under that learning tree. But yeah, no bad things.
definitely. I got nothing but love for him. Next up, often considered one of the best to ever do it, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
One day I would kill to have his stamina. 60 minutes, 7 nights a week, twice on Sunday. No, like greatest of all time.
Oh, definitely. Next up, a guy that's still doing his thing backstage. I believe he's still with AEW, backstage, anyways. The Enforcer, Arn Anderson.
If ever there was, damn, I remember growing up, and one of the first matches I can remember watching was an Arn Anderson match. And everything he did just sticks out in my mind, from the way that he would throw a punch, from the way that he would like drill somebody in with that spine buster, just the small would use to put together. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. No, the way he did a damn spine buster was just something else. Just amazing.
Yeah. So, like, also, like, Mount Rushmore.
Oh, so definitely. Definitely. And like, we go back to his spine buster. I mean, you see some people, they do a good one, but Arn Anderson, it almost like you almost believe he could just break somebody through the ring the way he just wham.
And that's intensity. Like, the man had it. Whenever you watch him, it's like, oh, that's fake. You never had that thought. You're like, you just whooped the shit out of that boy.
Oh yeah, no, you had no doubt in your mind when watching him that he whipped his ass.
Yeah. So the
Mm.
they definitely earned their paycheck when they worked Arn.
Oh, definitely.
Taking care of him.
Next one, guy that has made his return to WWE, Machine Gun Carl Anderson.
That guy killed it in Japan. That guy killed it when he made it to WWE. That guy killed it when he went to Impact. Wherever he was given an opportunity, give him 5 minutes and he can show you how it's done.
Oh, totally. He's proven it everywhere.
Yeah. So smooth, so clean, like very, very underrated and needs to be in more discussions.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, heck, even with this latest return, when he first got there, still being the never openweight champion in New Japan, a lot of guys, they probably would have tried to find a way to get them to drop the belt before they actually made their debut.
Yeah.
Not very often do you see a guy get to carry although it wasn't on WWE television, that they actually get to carry the belt.
To still have a connection between those two companies in this climate with WWE, which is like, if it didn't happen here, it didn't happen. Yeah, that's huge.
Oh, yeah, totally. And just the fact that, this last year, speaking of the interaction between the two companies, I mean, you had that. You had Nakamura going over there for Muda's thing.
Exactly.
Just amazing stuff. Now I have a little bit of a random question category. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. You just give me the first answer that pops into your head.
All right.
First one, craziest in-match moment for you.
Knife got pulled on me by a 7-year-old.
Ooh, damn. Yeah, that hard to beat that one. That's for sure.
Yeah, that one sticks out.
I told my absolute craziest one, but I still remember one other one that I love telling. And the guy that did it was actually, I made him my best man at my wedding because he actually introduced me to my wife. And they were in this promotion's version of the Money in the Bank ladder match. And they had a ladder on the opposite side of the ring from where I was, bridge between the ring apron and the guardrail. And he has this guy on his back in like very reminiscent to me of Sheamus and the white noise move that he does.
Yeah.
And then I see him look down at the ladder. And I'm just shaking my head like, no, do not tell me. He looks back down again, jumps, the ladder folds, and I see them disappear on the other side of the ring.
Yeah, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to take that type of punishment body.
Oh hell, that guy, he and both of the guys I'm friends with that were in this other match talking about you would have to pay me a lot of money to do this. There was scheduled a no rope barbed wire match, and one of the guys was there, but the opponent, the originally scheduled opponent, was in a all death match show the night before and had a nasty injury from a light tube. Wasn't able to compete. So they're trying to figure out, how is this match still going to happen? Because the whole show is centered around the no rope barbed wire match. Well, that same friend that did the ladder match spot, he's been in a bunch of death match, barbed wire match stuff. So he took the match and was a replacement on short notice. And I still just remember when he first told me about it when I was there early. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Yeah, absolutely insane. Anyways, I like to talk with a bunch of the deathmatch guys that I have on about this. And, since the idea is people are trying to plant the idea in your head, if you had the choice to pick a weapon that you would like to avoid being used, what would it be?
What weapon would I not want used on me?
Yeah.
The logical thing to say is none of them. You can hit me with everything as long as it's not A, B, C, or D. No. Damn, that's a good one. It's not necessarily what I would not like to be hit with. It's a bump that I don't want to take.
Okay, well, that's perfectly fine.
The Lego bump.
Oh, yeah, no, those are nasty. Those are nasty.
Yeah. You can light tube me. You can hit me with a steel chair. God knows I can use a couple more concussions. I'm kidding, YouTube. He's not nothing to joke about. By the way, get well soon, Willie. One of my buddies just knocked himself silly and got a concussion.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, get well soon to him for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, light tubes. Chairs suck. Doors aren't that bad. Kendo sticks pinch, but like when your adrenaline's running, you don't feel anything. It's when the adrenaline's off, and you're just like, this sucks. So,
I've heard a whole gambit of answers to that. You bring up a door. I actually was at an all deathmatch show where you bought a ticket, you were entered into this raffle, and for an item that was used in a match, signed by everybody. I didn't know I won until they walked up to me at the end of the show and hand me a section of a door that was broken off in a match, signed by everybody, and there's a blood stain still on the door.
I think the best one was like it was a wiffle ball bat with like shark teeth glued into it or something like that.
They had a wiffle ball bat in that show that had like some sort of special like popper things like you see on the 4th of July with the kids.
Oh,
and like these ones, like they hit the guy, but then this ball of fire came out from the damn bat, and it's like, oh shit.
As a fan, that would be cool to see. As someone taking that, hell no.
No, definitely. I know. Oh, what was I? Oh, I was just thinking we're going to the light tubes. I remember that show. All of a sudden, somebody gets hit with a light tube, and then like that end connector piece flew off and hit me in the foot.
Oh,
I still have it.
yeah, that's definitely not an open toe shoe type show to go enjoy.
Oh, God, no, not at all. Next one. I kind of, I know I have my favorite foods and I have my least favorite ones. What would you say, favorite and least favorite food?
You can never, ever, ever go wrong with a steak.
That yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's a Waffle House steak, if it's a steak hoagie, or, it's a steakhouse steak. Meat is meat, and it's delicious. It's like the most alpha male thing I'll ever say. Meat is caveman.
Yeah.
But also, right under that, I will put ramen noodles, because you learn how to live on ramen noodles. Like, if you if you've done that struggle, you know how to get creative with ramen noodles, man. So, like, top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain, they meet right there in the middle as far as, like, favorite foods. Least favorite foods. Oh God, I'm fat. It's so hard to say that, like, I don't like food. I know there's overrated food, and it's more of like a brand more so than it is like, the actual type of food. Chick-fil-A, I think, is incredibly overrated.
It's not bad, but yeah, there's stuff out there better.
Oh yeah, I'm like, because, and it's mostly just stuff like, dude, it's chicken. Like, you can go anywhere and get chicken. What is so good about, like, their chicken? Like, you get pickles, that's it. So
No, I get you there. I know for me, I mean, yeah, steak is definitely high up on my list, but I know my absolute favorite thing, and my wife gives me shit about this sometimes, because literally we'll go to any Italian restaurant and I'll be like looking like, okay, where is this on the menu? Lasagna. I oh I
oh yeah.
My mouth waters when I get a good chunk. Oh, least favorite, and a lot of people look at me like, oh really? But deviled eggs, I can't stand them.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
those
know. I don't know if it's a texture thing, but like literally my family one time, because without really having tried one before, I just didn't really want to. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, come on, just try it. Like, I about gagged and threw up.
Ooh. Yeah, I forget about those. Yeah, those are pretty high on the list of, like, no, won't touch them. So
Yeah, no, after that, yeah, definitely I don't. And my family still, they'll joke with me about, hey, you want to, like, you know better than to ask me that.
you want a deviled egg? You want to get punched in the yeah.
No, definitely. Well, I would feel weird if I didn't have a question like this with the title of the show, like Drinking at Moe's. I don't know what my dog has in her mouth right now, but anyways, back to the question. Favorite drink, whether alcoholic, non, or one of each if you want.
Yeah, we'll go one of each. Um I I'm a kid at heart, so I'm a sucker for a slushy.
Mm.
Um Blue raspberry all day long. Cherry can suck it.
Hey, that blue raspberry is good.
Yeah, it slaps. It slaps. And then for alcoholic, I've right before, like, the fitness journey and stuff like that, I got really into bourbon and went on a
Mm.
bourbon, stuff like that. And I had some good ones. I had some not so good ones. Um, but I'm basic, man. Bourbon and ginger ale. And I am good to go.
I know me, I'm mostly, when it comes to alcohol, I'm mostly a beer guy. Like,
Hmm.
I went to my first Green Bay Packer game. Well, not my first one up at Lambeau.
Yeah.
And they have this beer that I've been hearing people rave about. And I brought it back with me. Spotted Cow. Only sold in Wisconsin. Damn good. I have like a little over half of a case of the cans left, and I got a whole case of the bottles still in my fridge.
Yeah, it's like I got really into IPAs when I was getting into like when I just started drinking beer, so like 18, 19. And I worked at a restaurant that all they had on tap was like local brewers, microbrews, IPAs and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is weird. My first beer I ever drank was like Bud Ice. So like anything is better than that. They're like, hey man, you want to try this? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh, what is this? It's a real beer. And I'm like, you pretentious dick. And a couple of years, I'm like, hey, so you guys want to try an IPA? They're like, no. And now, like, if I'm grabbing a beer, it's usually like a lager, like a Yingling or that. Or like for this one, it's a local brewery out of North Carolina. It's called Foothills. And this is the Festival Express India Pale Ale. It ain't bad. So I'm not trying to get, but hey, if they want to sponsor me, hell yeah, give me some merch.
Hey, no, definitely. I know as far as, non-alcoholic for me, my wife thinks I have a bit of a Dr. Pepper problem, but I always tell her I don't have a problem. I have it figured out. The only time I have a problem is if I don't have any.
Not the barbecue water. No.
Delicious barbecue water.
That was definitely a crutch for a long time for me. Like I would crush a 2 liter of soda in like a day and a half. I would just like didn't even need to. I would just pop the top and just walk around with it, sipping it out of the bottle. So
no, I've been there. That is for sure.
Cheeto stuck.
Last but not least, best advice for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Don't do it. If you're going to get into it, you need to be a little crazy. And if you get into it with not being crazy, by the end of it, you're going to be batshit insane.
Yeah.
Listen to all advice, but don't take it all at heart. There are going to be 20 people that tell you how to do you. Only you can do you. And the number one rule, trust your body. You don't feel like you can accomplish something, don't fucking do it. So
definitely. And good advice there, because like you said, multiple people telling you different ways on how to do one thing. And all you really need to do is, listen to everybody, but maybe take little bits from everybody and mold it into your own little thing to how it, that it fits you.
Yeah. So like you'll have 10 people, and each one of those 10 people will give you like just the smallest little detail off, but it's all the same thing. Like, hey, don't do a dive. Hey, don't do a dive. Well, if you're going to do a dive, make sure you're doing there. Like, hey man, I do dives every match, and just like rare variations of such and stuff like that, man. Like do whatever makes you happy. Remember, wrestling is supposed to be fun. When you start making it toxic, then it sucks. Wrestling is on the same keel as like Star Wars as far as like being toxic, as their fan base. Everybody good wrestling. When they get good wrestling, they're like, fuck, this is not what I wanted. I'm like, I hate you. Fucking hate you.
No, definitely. I can definitely see the parallels there between the two fan bases. Very similar in that aspect.
But like also at the same time, they're incredibly passionate. Like they love what they like. Cool. Other people are trying to get to where you are. Stop gatekeeping. Let them enjoy it. So wrestling is meant to be enjoyed. It is not meant to cause stress. It's not meant to cause grief. It is there because for people like us, that was our escape.
Yeah.
We can forget about shit and just watch, Blair or Sting Muda or Brett and Sean, or Razor and anybody, we can watch that. Or we can watch, ROH. We can watch New Japan. We can watch All Japan. We can watch Terry Gordy fuck somebody up for 45 minutes, or Bruce Brody scare the living shit out of everybody,
Oh,
even though
I loved him. I loved him.
Dude, I watched clips of Bruiser Brody today, and I know he's been passed for a long time. May he rest in peace. And he still scares the shit out of me. Like I'm like, I wasn't even born when this happened, and I'm still scared. So, like, that's when you have a legacy. So,
oh yeah, no, totally agree with you. Well, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
Usually Instagram at Evan Fury 1 is a pretty good way to get a hold of me. Twitter, Ev Fury. Because there's another Evan Fury out there in the world, and I want to say he's in the Pacific Northwest. I'm coming for you. I was here before you were. But he does have a shop on Pro Wrestling Tee, so I'll go ahead and give him a plug on that one. He beat me to that one. And then on TikTok at Evan Fury.
All right, we'll have all that in the description. Well, like I said, that is about all I have. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Best of luck with the fitness journey and getting ready to get back there in the ring.
Yeah. If everything works out accordingly to plan, I should be making a return sometime in the not so distant future. So as soon as that happens, all that information will be shared on all the socials. Until then, yeah, I'm just going to keep making a hit list of people I'm coming after when I come back.
All right. Look forward to it.